Hey guys, Paul Morrow here again, doing a big news recap for Thursday, 14 August. Here we go. First of all, let me apologize for not having been on the air a bit on this forum. Fox been keeping me busy. I was out in the field on something as well, but I'm back. And actually, I had a chance to today host the Guy Benson radio show on Fox Radio, which was great fun, and thank you to Guy for that. The reason I like that forum so much is because, just like doing the Jimmy Fallon show, you get a chance to really speak to people because you have a lot more time and you can do really penetrative interviews. Today we had a really interesting one, in my opinion, with Eric Seidel, former prosecutor in and around New York and all these different seats. Those of you who follow the podcasts, you know about Eric. One of the things we talked about, and Eric really teased it out for us, is the fact that we may see, right now everybody's concentrating on Russiagate, but we may see even more activity potentially relative to the lawfare against Donald Trump in 2024. Let's call it lawfare 2. So lawfare 1, we've all talked about it, heard it. We know what happened in the lead up to the 2016 election. They manufactured intelligence, got a bogus warrant on Carter Page, a wiretap warrant, went up on his phone, and it was all bogus based on the Steele dossier, et cetera, et cetera. I've talked here on the ops desk about how venue is the key there. To get that thing prosecuted, you need venue outside of Washington, D.C. Don't do that case in Washington, D.C. because it's literally the bluest district in America by percentage. And you're never going to get to any answers there. You got to get it out of D.C. But this second round of stuff is the stuff that Eric had such insights on. There is the second round of lawfare against Donald Trump that occurred in 2024. And that was the Alvin Bragg, Tish James, all of that stuff. The reason we may get more activity there is because there is a grand jury now impaneled. And that grand jury sits in the Northern District of New York. That is a significantly less blue area than Washington and then New York City. And they have venue up there. They can bring the case up there because that's where the AG's office sits, okay? It's one of their main offices in Albany. So Tish James, who brought that ludicrous civil case against Donald Trump and got that hundreds of million with $300 and something million settlement, had that case going contemporaneously with the Alvin Bragg criminal case. Now, if you recall, Bragg picked up that case. It was 34 counts relative to essentially an accounting error. And it wasn't even an error but they managed to conjure this ludicrous case that should have been time limited out. They created this whole Arabesque thing where it became a felony, 34 counts, convicted felon, or a complete bullshit case. Never would have been brought against anybody else under any circumstances. Laughable. Laughable. And anybody who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay. Now, was there collusion between those two offices? That's the question. Did Tish James and Alvin Bragg communicate, conspire to say, okay, you bring the criminal case and I will bring the civil case? Because rather than both of them doing it, which either one had jurisdiction, they seem to have split it up. Furthermore, DOJ passed on Alvin Bragg's case. And then Alvin Bragg's office himself passed on it and then came back to it. Why do I give you all those facts? Because the grand jury that is impaneled against Tish James in Albany has the ability to go after all this stuff. They can go after the communications. They can get all of her communications. They can pull all the communications with the DA's office. From there, you can then get to the DA's office stuff. You can even, now that Donald Trump has DOJ, go into the DOJ communications to see why they passed it up and what the communications were between the Biden DOJ and Alvin Bragg's office. And remember something, the number 3 in DOJ, a guy named Matt Colangelo, number 3, left that spot in D.C. as the number 3 in DOJ to be a line prosecutor for Alvin Bragg against Donald Trump. That doesn't happen. That just doesn't occur. So the fact that he essentially took this enormous demotion to go from DOJ to go do the case against Donald Trump shows you how much collusion there was. And for once, we have the mechanisms to get it. That grand jury sitting in Albany right now can peel the layers back from this mess. And don't be surprised if you find communications where people are funny. They just put stuff in texts they shouldn't. That up there in Albany could really, really work for Donald Trump. Paul Morrow for the Ops Desk.